everybody. It's a privilege to be here. I hope it's clear. Let's go with the slide. Oh, I go this way. Okay. So, my job today is to help you to do some work, right? You thought you were coming here to listen to me, but it's actually your job to hopefully get something from this session and you leave a little bit differently. And it's just my job to facilitate that. So the title of the talk is Leading from the Emerging Future of Pretrial, Our Next Level of Collaboration. So we've just seen the collaboration that it takes and what history is doing and what's going on in pretrial. So now it's the emerging future of pretrial. Where are we going? What's happening? And have you ever noticed that no one ever lives actually in the future? You never get to the future. You're always living in the present moment. So the emerging future is today. What's here? What's coming out of us? Where are we going? And yesterday we had that leadership day where about 80 leaders came together, gave up their Sunday, and they're here. They're going to help us a little bit today again, because I'd like them to stand up. Could they stand up for a second? These are the folks that were there all day yesterday, right? Now they're going to sit down. You can just see where they are. So they're going to sit down, and what they're going to do is help us get ready to do some work. And the way we're going to get ready is this, just to kind of wake us up a little bit. So I'm going to show you what we want you to do. We're going to take a breath in and then push it out. See that way? So we're going to have the leaders now, they're going to show you how to do this, and what we're going to do is do it 10 times, and then do it 3 times by 10 times. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and again for 10, and again for 10. And let's see what they do, and here's the question, how do you think they're feeling after they do it? So you just put your hands in your lap. You ready, folks? Shoulders up, take a deep breath in, and let's go. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go. Keep going. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Put your hands in your lap. Put your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. Just close your eyes. What do you notice? What do you notice in your body? You might notice a tingling, different kind of sensation, a little bit of peace maybe. Whatever you're feeling, it's fine. So now stay with your eyes closed and take a breath and let your out-breath out. Just gently make sure you're consciously breathing out. In and out. And as you let your breath out, you might notice your body relaxes. You just drop down into your body a little bit. And you're more present to your body. So stay there for a second and let's just think about the context we're working in. We heard the previous speakers talking about crime, and there's violence, and there's healing, and second chances. And we know the work that we do in the criminal justice system, there's kind of danger around. And so it's a little bit scary to be working in this field. And people are genuinely scared and they're afraid that more danger will happen. And we're trying to help increase that safety. But just as you breathe now, I just want you to notice that right now, at this moment, when you breathe into your body, you're actually completely safe right at the moment. So take a breath and say to yourself, I am safe. Allow that to be there present, that sense of safety. And then we can go one step further and we can see that we are connected today. We're connected to history, we're connected in the present. So take a breath and say to yourself, I am connected. I am safe, I am connected. And then notice that right now we've got all these resources. We've got Illinois, we've got New Mexico, we've all these people, we've Tim Snacky, we've Kenny, all these people and all these different resources that we have. So say to yourself, I am resourced. So I am safe, I am connected, and I am resourced. And we are safe, we are connected, and we are resourced. Take another breath and gently come back to the room, and we'll keep going with the conversation. History is meaning, and it belongs to the community, because we've just seen it here in front of our eyes, the community working, learning together, thinking together, creating meaning. And we belong to a long history of meaning, and it's our job now is to carry that forward. And where does the history begin? Many people trace it back to England in 1215. To the Magna Carta. You might not know much about this, but it was an amazing, I'm not a historian, but I know a little bit about it. It was an amazing battle, really, between the king and the barons and the people, and there was all sorts of stuff going on. But the core issue was, is there due process? Is everybody equal under the law, including the king? And the king said in the Magna Carta, yes. And they kind of agreed to that. And that had a direct influence in American constitutional history. So in Stack versus Boyle in 1951, they're talking about excessive bail, which was in the 8th Amendment in the Constitution, comes from Magna Carta. So it's coming down through this history. But what I think is really interesting in Stack versus Boyle, this is what the court emphasized. That unless the right to bail release is preserved, the presumption of innocence, secured only after centuries of struggle, would lose its meaning. See, we talk about history as meaning, and if we don't keep this, the centuries of struggle will lose its meaning. So we are part of centuries, literally centuries of struggle. And that's kind of what we need to be doing. So this is tough work. We do need to feel safe, but it's also tough work. So let me just tell you a quick story about my background a little bit. I'm born in Ireland, after high school, went to study law. I spent 6 years studying law. And, you know, the law was very dry. And I was able to do it, but it really wasn't in my heart. It was more people-oriented. So after I did my last exam, I took the bar exam, graduated. 2 days later, I took a different direction and I went off and I became a monk. So 2 days later, I'm in a monastery, praying, right? So, but that began 9 years as a friar. Friars as a Carmelite, and they're wandering monks. You don't stay in the monastery, you kind of wander around with the people. You know, Friar Tuck, Robin Hood is out with the people. So that's kind of what I did for 9 years, and I did a lot of study on that, and it was a wonderful time. And they actually sent me to America to do more study. And that's how I came to be in America. And then I decided to leave the order. I was kind of growing and I wanted to do something else. I left the order, I needed a job. So I got a job doing a research study in a research institute studying religion in prisons, because I knew a little bit about religion. So I was doing a study of a religious program in prison and whether it had an impact on recidivism. Turned out it did. But that study led to another study, and that's like 35 years ago. That's how I got into the criminal justice system. And so, fast forward, I was asked to come. I started doing consulting around the country in different places. I was asked to go to Oregon. Oregon said, Tom, will you come and work here as the head chaplain for us, because we want to, listen to this, they said, we want to make the department more moral. That's what they asked me to do. Could you help us do that? And I said no at the start, but But this is a great opportunity. They have a lab. Maybe I could do some work there. So I went to Oregon, where I live now. That was 25 years ago. And I started working in the system. And we had 24 chaplains and we had 2,000 volunteers. And we started building this system together. We started working together. All the prisons, we had 14 prisons, they were all separate. We connected them. We got all the superintendents together. All the volunteers were going in and they had to be escorted everywhere they went. So we were thousands of hours of staff. But we figured out, well, what if we trained the volunteers and we got the superintendents to allow to give them a card, and the volunteers could go directly to where they were working, saved thousands of hours of our staffing time. It was great. We started doing all this kind of work. We started working with Muslims, with Catholics, with Protestants, with atheists, with the people who don't know anything. What do you believe? I don't know. So we were working with everybody. And we were creating this system, and all the lawsuits were going down. It was a massive system, and it was really going great. And then I got fired. Right? Because I didn't understand that some of the changes we were making, centuries of struggle, some of the changes were a little bit too much for the system. And I didn't understand it correctly. So my leadership was not up to the task of getting us across the line. But then I began to learn about it. And that's kind of some of the work we did. It was a blessing to me. I began to learn, okay, I can kind of figure this out a little bit deeper, a little bit more understanding. And that's kind of what's going on with failures of implementation. Because our work is precarious. We could lose it. It doesn't guarantee that we get across the finish line. Because when you look in the science of this thing called implementation science, they started studying education, criminal justice, healthcare, business, all the big institutions. And here's what they found, that the way we're doing things, the way we're trying to implement things, which is I call the train and pray method, right? So we all go to training and we pray that when people come back, something's going to be different. Well, let's see what you get when you do that, right? So look at this. This was one study. After 17 years of work, they got 14% of the innovation into practice. 17 years of work. Here's another one. Oh, that one, they got 15% of the innovation. What about this one? Oh, 10%. And this one, look, 80% of change initiatives fail, mostly because of failures of implementation. So to see what Illinois do, what New Mexico was doing, that's like extraordinary because they're kind of making it. But we know it's a challenge still. What if you use the science, if you use implementation science? With implementation science, they discovered there are certain things, if you do it, it makes a big difference. So look what happens. With the science, this is one study, after 5 years just, 80% of the sites met criteria. They did everything. See? So they got much further, much quicker. And then implementation time reduced on average from 7 years to 3.5 years. So it's kind of extraordinary. And here's what's going on in general. 80% of clients have good outcomes compared to 14% on average. So this is the summary. Not using implementation science, 14% of people benefit after 17 years. That's across all fields. And so you get this kind of a thing. That's what's going on. But with the science, this is what happens. 80% of people benefit after 3 years, so you get this kind of thing. A big difference. That's the work that we're involved in. So where do we need to go for that? So I'm going to put you to work now, and we're going to do a riddle. And I'm going to ask you to solve the riddle. And why am I going to do this? Because I want you to do two things. We do this kind of thing together. We're going to do two things. We're going to solve the riddle. And I'm going to ask you to just talk to the people around you, because do it collectively. You know, I'll give you the riddle, you'll get your own answer, and then turn to a few people beside you and see if you can get a team answer. But what I want you to do is pay attention, not just to the riddle, pay attention to what happens inside your mind, your own consciousness, as you're trying to figure it out. Because that's what we're doing every day. We're figuring things out. And if we understand a little bit more about what our minds actually do when we're doing it, we're able to do it better. Okay? So that's the job. Solve the riddle, but watch what's going on in your mind. Okay, so here's the riddle. A baseball bat and a ball, together they cost $1.10. And this is a real riddle. There's a real answer. It's not a trick answer. So it's a real thing. Together they cost $1.10. Now, if the bat costs $1 more than the ball, how much does the ball cost on its own? Okay, what does the ball cost on its own? Got your answer? All right, get a team answer and see if you can get a joint team answer. Let's hear a couple of the answers. So somebody shout out their team answer. What was your team answer? 5 cents. What else? Somebody else? 10 cents. 5 cents, 10 cents. Any other answers? So we've got 2 possible answers. It's 10 cents or it's 5 cents. Let me ask most of you, when I put the riddle, who immediately said it's 10 cents? Right? So that's what happened, right? You see what happened? Oh, I get it, it's 10 cents, right? And then what happened? What did you do after you said it's 10 cents? Collaborate. And then what happened? Doubt came in, right? Oh, maybe it's not 10 cents. Maybe it's something different. And then you go to work. And when you're going to work, who said, oh my God, I hate math? Right? Fear. Oh my God, math. Right? So feelings come in. And then you're trying to think, well, I don't really need to get the answer. Right? I think I'll pass. So this is what's going on. This is a simple riddle, but I guess most of you probably worked it out though. Did you get it? Because then I think you said, well, maybe it's not 10 cents. If it's not 10 cents, it must be something different. Maybe it's 5 cents. And then you check it out and you get to the right answer. But I bet you there's still somebody in the room who's saying, wait now, what is the answer? And many people are not sure of what the answer is. Yeah, there's a couple of people. So let's just make sure everybody gets this. So we'll go through this. So here's the riddle. The ball is the answer. We're looking for that answer. And the bat is $1 more than the ball. That's the key. It's $1 more than the ball. And together they're $1.10. All right, so we'll try 10 cents. It's our first thought. What's $1 more than 10 cents? $1.10. That's the key. Add the 2 together, you get $1.20. So it can't be 10 cents, because that's too much. Well, 10 cents, if it's too much, maybe it's less. Maybe it's 0. What's $1 more than 0? $1. Add those things. No, that's not right. Let's try in the middle. 5 cents. Dollar more than 5 cents. Yep. Oh, that's it. Right? So I hope everybody sees it, right? Even the people who are scared of math. So, here's what I want to show you what I think. I'm going to make a proposal to you that what I'm going to show you next is what happens in all of our minds. I'm arguing that there's a consciousness, that we have human consciousness. And you know, we have different identities. I'm Irish, I'm not American, I'm this, I'm that. But what we've all got in common is that we're human beings. And human beings have this incredible capacity in our minds to do what I'm going to show you next. So just see if this is kind of what goes on inside of you. So we begin with experience. I gave you the riddle that we all have that common experience. You can see the data. And we also had some consciousness. We were trying to pay aware to our own consciousness, what's happening in our mind. So that's data as well. So we see something, we get the data, we hear something, we touch it, we taste it, we smell it. We're working with our senses and we have an experience. That's where it all begins. It all begins in experience. But then what happens? Well, you want to understand your experience. What is it? What is the answer? Because the experience doesn't give it to you. So this question emerges. What is it? And you want to start thinking about your experience. What is pretrial? Right? Who here had no clue when you started working what pretrial was? Well, I don't know. Because you can't look and see the answer. You have to get the answer in your mind. And that takes work. So you have this question, what is it? Now, you get an answer. And usually an answer comes into your head, and it's a quick answer, it's 10 cents. So it's reasonable. Nobody said, oh, it's $100. No, you said it's a smart answer, 10 cents. But then this other question emerges. Oh, 10 cents? Now, is it so? Is it really 10 cents? And see, now your mind is doing something else. It's not trying to understand, it's trying to get the evidence to make sure that your understanding is correct. You're at a different level of consciousness now. And this is the level where you get to truth and you get to knowledge. It is true that it's $1.10, and it will always be $1.10. So when we get to the level of truth, we understand and we know something that's true, independent of us. That's the beauty of it. We are able to reach a level of truth that is true, whether I think it or not. It's not just up to my mind. But the 10 cents is just up to my mind because it's just an idea. And ideas are, plentiful, but you have to get to the next level. What do you do when you know what's going on? Oh, is it so that this is what pretrial is, that it goes back to the Magna Carta? There was a first generation reform, a second generation reform, now we're in a third generation reform, centuries of struggle. Once you say, this is what pretrial is, this is release, this is detain, this is presumption of innocence, this is due process. Then you have to have another question. Okay, well, is it good? What should we do about this knowledge? Now you're moving beyond truth, you're losing to ethics, to justice, to values and to decisions. So we understand, then we correctly understand, and then we make decisions based on that. That's where we go. So we're moving to this level, and it's values now we're talking about. Because we are driven by values. We want what's good. And we don't want to do things that are bad. Who here wakes up in the morning and says, today I'm going to do bad? Nobody. Now sometimes we do, but we kind of fool ourselves that it's good. Right? We kind of play the game. but we want goodness. That's where our consciousness is seeking goodness. It's seeking the truth, it's seeking goodness. Now, I think there's another level that we want to talk about. There's another question that emerges, because once you say it's good, like you're working at the level of values, there's something else happens. And here's the next question. I think this question comes up. Is it loving? Oops, let's go back. Is it loving? Because now we're into a different level. There's something beyond ethics and justice. Justice is about fairness and equality and stuff like that. But you see this question, and some people have a trouble with the word loving. No, that's not the right word. Well, so just think, is it compassionate? Is it caring? That's, it doesn't matter what word you use. But now we're at the level of mercy, not just justice. You see what I mean? It's mercy and justice. They're two different things. And we're at the level of humor, we're laughing. Like sometimes you're in a pickle, everything is gone, it's terrible, and you just break out laughing about it. Why are you laughing when everything's terrible? Because there's something else in our human spirit that's beyond just what's happening. And the meaning comes in here, wholeness. And let me give you an example of this. The atom bomb is a great example. America drops the atom bomb in Nagasaki, Hiroshima, thousands of people are killed, but it saves millions of people, stops the war. There's an argument about, was it just? Was it the right thing? Well, some people think it was, and some people think it wasn't. So there's a genuine argument. But if you ask the question, well, was that a loving thing to do? It's a different question. You see? So it just takes you to a different space. All right. And did you notice when you were doing this, math feelings come into play, big time. So our feelings are moving as we're questioning and thinking and trying to make all these decisions. Our feelings are incredibly important. That's why we did at the start, I am actually safe. Because it helps us to calm down so we can think. When you're afraid, can you think? You can't. It's too hard, so you need to be watching your feelings. Our feelings are kind of driving us. Without our feelings, all our knowing and doing would be paper thin. It's the feelings are about the values. That's telling us what's important to us. So feelings are critical. So then, look at this. This is a word called authenticity or genuineness. What is, when somebody is genuine, you meet somebody and they're a mensch, people would say, that's a good person. They're authentic. They are like being authentic to themselves. What does that mean? Well, this is kind of what it means, I think. It means they're attentive. They pay attention to what's happening because they want to experience, and we are being attentive. And sometimes it's hard to be attentive. Let me watch Netflix. And you're not watching the kids. So being attentive is part of authenticity. And then at the next level is being intelligent. It's asking those questions. It's not saying, I don't want to know. No, you need to ask the question. And then you need to be rational. You need to ask the next question. Is the evidence for this? You see, this is work. This takes work. But when you are attentive and intelligent and rational, and when you're responsible, and when you're loving, wonderful things happen. Because that is what creation is about. Now we are creating the history. That's the centuries of struggle where people have been asking these questions. What is it? Is it so? Is it good? Is it caring? And building pretrial justice and pretrial safety. That's what we're doing. And that's authenticity. And that's what we do every day, all of us who are trying to do this. But there's a problem, because you've also got inauthenticity, right? And that's when we're not attentive. We're too tired. I don't want to bother. And we're unintelligent. We don't ask the question. We say, that's too hard. I don't know. I don't care about the answer. You see? Or we're irrational. We don't look for the evidence, or we're irresponsible, or we're not loving. We all know what this is like. We all do this as well. So this is going on in everybody at the same time, because being a human being, it's kind of difficult, right? It takes some work, it takes some development. That's what we were doing yesterday as the leaders. We were trying to help each other be authentic and really look honestly at what's going on in us, what's our fears, what's really happening, where do we need to go to get to the next level of leadership. It's wonderful, wonderful day. It's a great day of work. So when this happens, this is what you get. When we do this together, collectively, you get authentic collaboration. And that is the source of legitimate power. We together are very powerful. Just, you heard the Illinois story, right? All those people getting good services. It's incredibly powerful. But we know, though, that inauthentic collaboration is what? It's the source of illegitimate power. If you think of Pol Pot or Stalin or Hitler, all those people, like they had a whole set of collaboration. They were very efficient. They did all this collaboration, and they were very powerful. But it was illegitimate power. And that's the key, legitimate power. Because the institution of pretrial is in your hands. You have been entrusted with it, we have been entrusted with it by the community. Because community has the meaning. The history is the community. And the history of the community, when the community develop things together as human beings, this is what human beings do, they entrust that meaning to authorities. They entrust it to you folks who are the authorities in Illinois, in New Mexico, in DC, in Denver, everywhere. And so we have to take that authority, because we are in that position of authority, very seriously, so that we're able to kind of carry it forward. But we are not the holders of the meaning. The holders of the meaning is the community. That's where the meaning comes from. All right, so authentic collaboration is the source of legitimate power. So how do we get there? Well, better conversations, better collaboration, better outcomes. We love our outcomes, and we are great. It's brilliant what pretrial does compared to the other branches, to me, of the criminal justice system. Why? Because we know our outcomes. We know what we're trying to do, the 3 M's. We know it. We've been articulated. It's clear. We can measure it. We're able to know, can we get these results? How do we get there? We get there through collaboration. How do we get collaboration? Through conversations. It's all what humans, all we do is have conversations. That's how we collaborate. So what goes into conversations? Let's take a quick look. Here's one kind of conversation that we're having at the moment. It's called a monologue. Like, it's only me speaking. And the root of the word monologue, or there's a discussion, or there's a dialogue. Well, let's look at these 3 different kinds of conversation. Because we are having a monologue, and that's one meaning. The monologue, mono means one, logos means meaning. So a monologue is there's one meaning. We're trying to get together at one meaning, and we're trying to understand it. And when you have a beautiful monologue, it's like a clarion call. Think of Martin Luther King, the I Have a Dream. It's an incredible, hundreds of people, and they are all feeling the same thing. They get it, right? It's just this amazing experience of a good monologue. Now, you have bad monologues as well, so we won't talk about them, but we'll talk about the good ones for the moment. It's one voice. A discussion is different. A discussion, it says, the root of the word means actually to break apart. You're kind of breaking things apart. It's the same root as the word concussion, discussion, percussion. You see, beats, concussion, you break something apart. So in a discussion, the image is, it's kind of like playing ping pong. It's back and forth, blah, blah, blah. I think this, no, you're wrong, this is what's right. And a lot of our meetings are discussions, and you need discussions. A good discussion is seeking the truth. It's kind of trying to get to the right answer. So it's a great thing, but we can overdo it. Because the problem is that some ideas win out and voices win out. And we're talking about authentic collaboration. We're talking about the whole. For that, you need to go to dialogue. And the root of the word dialogue is true, dia is true, meaning is logos, so dialogos, so it's true meaning. Remember we talked about history as meaning? So let's take a look at this. What's dialogue? Well, if you're in a dialogue, it's like a river flowing. That's the feeling. You all know, like Kelly said, I had a great conversation last night, right? We know when we're in a good conversation because it's just carrying us along, right? There's this sense of a flowness to it. And things are happening, and it's just kind of a beautiful thing. So I gave this example yesterday. My daughter is, 24 now. Ashley's my wife, so we've got one kid. She goes off to college this is several years ago. And everything changed in our house. Suddenly, my wife and I are looking at each other. Where's Sorka? And we're just now, our relationship was changed because Sorka was gone out of the house. And Sorka's calling us back and coming back and forth. Her relationship to us changed. So my relationship to Sorka changed, to Ashley changed, Ashley's relationship to Sorka changed, her relationship to both of us changed. Everything was changing. And we were kind of feeling it. Right? So we didn't know quite what was going on. We knew something was happening. So we sat down at the kitchen table. I'll never forget it. And we started talking about it. And we all acknowledged and just said how we were feeling. Everybody was talking. And we said, yeah, I feel this. And Sorka, well, our relationship was changed. We told her what was going on for us. And we all had this great conversation. We stood up from that conversation. I can't remember what we talked about. I told you a little bit about it, but the details, we were all different. We stood up and we felt different. And our relationship, everything, something had happened, it changed. New meaning was present. That's what happened. New meaning, we created the meaning. So it's very, very powerful. And here's what happens. It emerges from everybody. You see, where our emerging future, it's everybody. It's not just the Kennys, the people who are really kind of getting the awards. They're critical, the Tim Schnackys, the Taras, the Wendy's, the Kelly, but it's really everybody because we carry it. So 3 conditions for dialogue or for high-performing collaboration. Here's what you need. You need safety. We need to be safe with each other. It's really critical. And you can't take that for granted, so we have to build that. And we have to build that with our stakeholders. Because if we don't know our stakeholders and we don't make them feel safe, Joel told me one story one time. He was working, trying to get his team of stakeholders together, and he said there was one stakeholder it wasn't working with. I can't even remember what it was. Maybe it was the district attorney, I don't know. Joel drove for 2 hours to go and have breakfast with him. And he said, I had no agenda. And I didn't want to talk about pretrial. We had breakfast, I got to know him. That's what Joel was doing. He was creating safety. And he said, we built a friendship and we built a collaboration and it changed everything. Right, Joel? So this is very important that we build this, and you have to consciously do it. The other thing that's important is the equality of voices. And many of you have been at a meeting, there's 6 people in the meeting, and 2 people are talking, right? And 4 people are quiet. And when the 6 of you meet again, what happens? 2 people talking, 4 people quiet. That's not a dialogue. It's not an authentic collaboration, because for authenticity, you all need to be speaking. So the introverts, what do you need to do? When you're in a meeting and you're a bit quiet, you're more of an introvert, you need to lean into the conversation. And the extroverts who love talking, what do you need to do? Lean back. Make a bit of space for the introverts to talk. This is the way it works. better conversations, better collaboration, better outcomes. And there's one other thing, to suspending assumptions. Because we all have the assumptions. And what is an assumption? The assumption is it's 10 cents. Assumption is something that we think is true, and we're convinced it's true, but it's not true. So we looked at our assumptions as leaders yesterday, and we discovered we had a lot of assumptions about what it is to be a leader. That's kind of not true. And we said, oh boy, those assumptions are holding us back. Because we believe them to be true, we act a certain way. Remember, decisions come after your knowledge. So you got to work with your assumptions, question those. Very important. All right, and then there's 3 functions of conversation. This is very brief, but here's the 3 functions, because I know I'm doing a lot of 3s. One is to have fun. It's leisurely. We love talking. We love getting together. That's why we're here. We want to have a good time when we're here, and we should have a good time. Because the leisureliness, I love talking to, my circus away in Ireland now, so we don't see her very often. But I love talking to her. It's just fun when you're having a good conversation. And then it's pragmatic, right? It's pragmatic. You're trying to make something. How do we figure out, how do we get the people into the court? How do we make things happen? How do we get the defense attorney present? How do we get the right charges? You're making all these things happen. But it's another thing then, it's the constitutive level, right? That's when myself and Aisling and Circa are talking at the table, so we are constituting ourselves. When we talk with each other, we make ourselves be the kind of people we are. As we're talking, we are creating the kind of people we will be. It's a very important aspect of conversation that we don't do enough of, because we don't often talk about what kind of person do I want to be at this meeting? How do we want to work together? That's a constitutive conversation. It's not about what are we going to do. Most of our meetings are about what do we have to do. We don't spend enough time thinking, how will we show up for each other? How will we be with each other? What kind of person can you rely on for me to show up during the meeting? This is the constitutive level of conversation. All right. So, let me see. Here's a famous, you might know his name, Gadamer, and he's a German. He died not so long ago, maybe about 10 years ago. But he said this, he talked a lot about dialogue. It's not just about presenting oneself and effectively expressing one's perspective. That's important. We need to learn how to do that. But this is the key, he said. Becoming a communion where we transcend, we go beyond our individual selves and become something more. That's what we're doing here in the conference. We're transcending our individuality, and we're going into meaning, that river of meaning that the community is that carries that history for us. So it's a beautiful way of looking at conversation. Is it possible, though? How do you remember, I'm going back now to the implementation thing. Remember this kind of problem of implementation? So, can you really do all this? It sounds like a lot of work, Tom. There's math involved and all of that. So is it possible? Can it happen? And can it happen at scale? Well, I'm going to say, just because you're here today, it's already happening. You're doing it. But we can get better at this. We can go more into this. And here's an example of how you do that. And to let you know that it's possible, I want to tell you a true story of the Virginia Department of Corrections, who have actually succeeded in all of these 3 areas to a large degree. So this is a picture of Harold Clark, the current director of Virginia Department of Corrections. Along the way, Harold meets with NIC, and there's a project called the Norval Morris Project, and they begin to work in this concept of a healing environment, corrections, criminal justice system as a healing environment. Harold catches that vision, and then Harold realizes the way to implement that vision is through dialogue. He knows that it's the collaborative process to people thinking together, working together, creating together that can bring about good. So Harold begins to train his executive team in 2010 in Virginia in the art and practices of dialogue. Then they train their next level down, and their next level down, and their next level down, until they've trained all 12,000 staff in Virginia. And in this picture, you'll see an image of some of those staff, about 200 of the staff working together. You can see they're all in little circles. They know how to talk together, they know how to listen together, they know how to oppose each other, but they can do it beautifully because they have a container of collaboration which allows them to speak their mind freely. What do they do though when they have all of these circles and they need to bring the whole thing together? Well, this is what they do. They come together in one circle. So you see here in Virginia, we have an image of collaboration and we have an image of the whole. And they have effectively implemented this system throughout their whole agency. And it's influencing outside agencies in Virginia, and it's influencing corrections as well. Extraordinary achievement. But let me just pick out the points of the story. Harold wanted to create a healing environment in the Department of Corrections in Virginia. That was their mission. They made that, we are going to create a healing environment. Harold had studied dialogue for 30 years. He knew that it was dialogue that made the difference. He trains his staff, trains the next level down, trains all 12,000 staff. It's a big department. They run probation and parole, and they run the prisons. Not only that, but Harold knows that train and pray doesn't work. You also need training and you need coaching. And you need coaching not in a classroom, you need coaching where the conversation is happening. So Harold developed 300 coaches, internal coaches, who loved dialogue, got a vision for it, and they began to understand, oh, this is how you do it, this is how, because this is, you can learn how to do this. And those coaches got developed in the art and practices of dialogue, and when a superintendent or mightn't be called a superintendent, what's another word for the head of the corrections? The warden. Superintendent wanted to have a dialogue. There was a problem with drugs coming into the prison or something like that. They said, okay, we have a problem, we're going to have a dialogue. And they would get everybody who was connected to that problem. The people who, with the dogs, the people at the front gate, the people on the ward, everybody needed to be there, and they would gather as a whole, and they'd have the dialogue. But the coach would be helping the superintendent, because we all need coaching, right? So they had this incredible system of implementation. They were following the implementation science. That's how they did it. So there's a lot of other things about that implementation science. Mike will be talking about it here later on. I'll be doing a session on implementation science after this call. So there's a lot about that, but that's something that I think you should be watching for. How do you do this implementation stuff? So in the Virginia Department of Corrections, when you go there, they are on fire. Everybody feels like they have a voice. It's still a top-down agency, but they all feel like their voice is important. And the people there working for the agency, because they got this dialogue, they took it to their churches, they took it to the YMCA, they took it out from the prisons and they went outside. So there's an extraordinary level of development. Here's what they're currently doing. They have 27,000 men and women in prison. So now they train the whole staff. Who do you think they're training and coaching next? 27,000 people in prison. How to dialogue. That's what they're doing. And they're implementing that throughout the whole system. That's the power of better conversations, better collaboration, better outcomes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tom. It's always such a pleasure.